Good morning, my workplace warriors, and welcome to today's Friday Morning Live. I hope you're having an awesome week. For those of you who are in the greater Atlanta area, I know that we're still seeing some snow, some remnants of some white stuff on the ground from our snow a week ago. So although the roads are now in good shape, um, they're still like in shaded areas of people's yards and what have you. We're still seeing a lot of patches of white in people's yards and what have you. So now they're telling us that another cold front is on the way for next week, and around next Wednesday or Thursday we could get some more wintry mix. So stand by, more to come. How exciting! Starting 2025 off with definitely a weather bang, and it would be very remiss of me if I did not acknowledge how our thoughts are with those out in the LA area who have suffered, lost their homes, lost everything. That they worked for. Even some people have lost their lives trying to fight and save their homes, or they could not get out when the fires broke out. And just sending prayers for just strength and increased faith and restoration for them, and also sending prayers for the firefighters and other first responders, because they are putting their lives on the line to try and keep others safe. So definitely want to acknowledge them with prayers and sending some positive vibes their way, because they need it. It is almost is to the point to where it's difficult for me to even watch the news and see all of that devastation, because it really looks like a war zone. Um, but definitely wanted to let you all know in LA that we stand with you in prayer and hopes for a brighter day. So let me tell y'all now, we live near a train track, and I hear a train track coming, but I did not. I mean, I hear a train coming, so there's going to be a little bit of noise in the background probably. And I have my fur baby. She followed me out of the bedroom to my office area, so she may start barking, but we will continue to press on. So today we're looking at an article that I found very interesting, that we're probably all familiar with this topic, but just thought it might be something good to look at and get an idea of what everybody else's experience is with this topic. And the title of the article is 11 Unspoken Office Rules That Can Make or Break Your Job. And I wonder, have you ever thought about the fact that there are unspoken workplace rules, not even just office rules, but in any workplace? There are unspoken rules that, based on the environment of that workplace, can make or break your job. I've seen it happen at every place that I've worked, and it's not illegal as long as the decision, to separate the employee is not based on a protected category. Employers have the right to let you go if you're not fitting in well with their culture. And I can share some examples with you that I've experienced over my 32 years in my human resources career. but I'm going to go through these, and the ones that I have, some of the ones that I have examples for, I will give you a tidbit of information about what my experience was with that particular workplace rule. So the first one is always be punctual no matter what. What I found is that, well, let me back up. First of all, when you accept your job, your employer lets you know what time you need to report to work. What I, even as a human resources person, or probably especially as a human resources person, because any human resources person can probably attest to the fact that we typically work very long hours. And since the pandemic, we end up carrying, especially, we end up carrying more work into our evening and family and home life time and weekend time, where we're checking emails and what have you. We even sometimes have a holiday off, and supposedly, but we're also doing some work to try and stay ahead of the game, because there's always so much work to do. But as far as always being punctual, no matter what my experience has been is that hourly paid workers, the employers normally are more stringent about hourly paid workers reporting to work at a certain time. And but then the salaried employees typically don't have to be as diligent, should I say, about being punctual. And one of the reasons is because the Fair Labor Standards Act allows employers to allow salary paid workers to work longer hours without paying them any additional money. They don't get paid. They're exempt from the overtime rule. So salaried employees can work as many hours as they want to, but they're not going to be paid anymore. I remember just this past Christmas, less than a month ago, I think it was the Friday, not think it was the Friday before Christmas. I worked 16 hours. Yeah, I worked 16 hours in one day, and then took a little nap, and then woke up on Saturday and worked about 4 more hours. So, but I didn't get any type of pay increase. Now, when it comes to meetings, workplace meetings, and what have you, it's very important that you show respect for other people's time, for their schedules and everything, because 9 times out of 10, they probably have another meeting, and one meeting after the other that they have to attend. And so if you're late to a meeting, you could be wasting that person's time, or, well, you are wasting your fellow colleagues' time, or whomever you're meeting with, and that could cause you to have more than one meeting about the same thing, because you don't have enough time. You don't leave them enough time to address the issue that you're addressing without having to have another meeting. So just keep that in mind, because time and attendance issues, especially timeliness issues, are some of the most prevalent workplace issues that cause employees to be let go. Then next is knowing when to speak up and when to hold back. Oh, this is very important, and this exists in absolutely every workplace. You need to possess some level of emotional intelligence. That's what we call it. To know, okay, is this a time that I need to bring a matter up, say in a group meeting, or should I pull my manager or colleague aside and have a private discussion? And let me tell you, it can ruin your workplace reputation if you don't know when you should speak up and when you should not, and how you should go about it. So always, as my mom always says, pick your battles, and not only pick your battles, but pick when you are going to have the battle. Express sound judgment, and because not speaking up at the right time, or speaking up even when you should not, that's going to provide an impression to others that you are not able to make sound judgments. Observe before trying to change things. And this is another one that is very important. We all know that when you go on a new job, you are eager to prove yourself and to show your management that you are able to tackle the challenges that your new position presents to you. However, don't just go in impulsively trying to change things. Find out, get yourself knowledge of some trusted go-to people in your new workplace. Develop relationships. And also, if you want to change something, don't change it or try to change it immediately. Try and get some background into why things are done the way they're done. There may be a very good reason as to why things are done the way that they are currently being done, but get that background story and determine if it's going to cause an issue if you change things, or if it's going to even make someone's work even harder, or more challenging if you change things. Also determine if you even have the authority to change the things that you want to change, because you may not have that authority. Every company does things a little different, and even if you're in a management position, that doesn't mean that with that particular employer that you have the expressed authority to just change things as you will. And make sure you try to get buy-in from those who you report to in order to change things, because you need their buy-in and support. Because believe you me, if you change something, and especially if you change it without your superiors buy-in and your other stakeholders buy-in, and things go left, guess what? You're going to find yourself likely out of a job. So definitely consider that. Next is choose your email tone carefully. This is another big one, and it became very big during COVID, when so many people started working remotely more often. Some people's tone in their email is absolutely horrible. Make sure you're not one of those people. Type up an email, read it, or send it to someone else, and ask them to read it to see if the tone is appropriate. And because what you need to think about is, if this had to be read out loud, would you want others to hear your tone? And that's what you need to do. You need to read it out loud. Don't read it silently to yourself once you type it up. Read it out loud with voice expressions and everything, and try and think about all of the possible perceptions that your reader, the person who receives that email message from you, could get from that. And also send it to someone else, or if you don't have someone to send it to review and give you wise counsel on it, type it up, save it as a draft, and then go back to it a little later and read it again after you have calmed down, if you're sending a response to something that made you feel some sort of way. Respecting boundaries, both personal and professional. And as I shared with you earlier, a lot of we human resources professionals, especially those of us who are in salaried positions, we tend to work long hours, and there seems to be somewhat of an expectation there for that. But we all need to do a better job of respecting boundaries. And one of the biggest ones that I see is we have people, and I have people in my workplace too, who they just think it's okay just to pop into your office. They don't know what you're working on, or how they're breaking your train of thought on, or your momentum on working on a project. They don't know what your schedule is. They just think that it's okay just to pop into your office door, and they don't ask you, do you have time? Or sometimes they'll ask you, but before they finish asking you, do you have a minute, they're already discussing or presenting to you what they stopped by your office for. Don't be one of those people. If you are, you're being very annoying. You're being very inconsiderate of the other person's schedule. And just because it is a 5 alarm fire for you doesn't mean that it is for the person who you just interrupted, who could be working on a project that they need to turn in by a certain deadline, and they could be at the end of it and really trying at that final stretch of trying to meet a deadline or what have you, and you just broke their train of thought, and probably are going to hold a conversation with them much longer than you should, and you've pretty much rearranged their day without their permission. So also, don't schedule meetings at the end of the day. I mean, even if a person normally works at after 5 or 5:30, whatever their your business's core hours are, think about the fact that even if they are a family of one, they may have plans, they may be tired, they may just want to go home and veg out after a long day of work. And I just think that it's just very inconsiderate and unprofessional to put a meeting on someone's calendar at 5 o'clock unless you discuss it with them. Now, if you're that person's manager, whatever, you're really not being a good manager. If you're that person's manager and you ask them, is it okay for you all to meet at 5 o'clock? Because guess what? They're not going to tell you that they can't meet at 5 o'clock with you. You are their manager. You rate their performance and their quality of work, and you're putting them in a very uncomfortable situation, and you could be causing them to miss out on something that is very important to them, a family activity, a child's recital, something else. They may have had dinner plans or what have you, and then you, as the unconsiderate boss, ask them to meet at 5 p.m. or after, and you think that they're going to tell you no. Most people are not going to tell you no, because why? We're only working, most of us, because we need our paychecks and we need our jobs. And so just think about that. Have a little bit more emotional intelligence where that is concerned as well. Make sure you steer clear of gossip. That's the next one. And I shouldn't have to go into this one very deeply, but I will just say that you lose a whole lot of credibility when you engage in workplace gossip. And also, make sure that you understand this, that when you engage in workplace gossip and you make comments about things in the workplace, for one, that you may not have the full story of, or that you shouldn't even be discussing anyway, guess what that person who you're talking to is going to do? they're going to spread what you said, but they're going to be careful not to share the gossip that they spoke. So it'll just keep you stay off the gossip radar, okay, and maintain your professional credibility and integrity and trustworthy. Because once people in the workplace realize that you engage in gossip in the workplace, they're not going to trust you with any confidential information, because they see that they can't trust you. Acknowledge others' contributions. This is a big one, because so many times people will present things as if they were the ones who did all of the work, when that is by far not the case. We are not islands. If it weren't for the team around us, we wouldn't be able to get half of the things done that we are able to get done. So make it a point to acknowledge your fellow colleagues, your team, your manager, whomever you worked on a project with, or even if you didn't work directly on the project with them, but they assisted you in some way, supported you in some way, provided information that helped you to get across the finish line and to meet a deadline. Do not fail to acknowledge and thank those people who support you, because what's going to happen if you continue to make it seem as if you are taking all of the credit for everything, that they're going to stop supporting you. They're going to become busy with other things, and they're going to support other people who acknowledge and thank them for their contributions. And you're going to be left out there by yourself. And then what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to meet a deadline, and you're going to find yourself on the carpet, because called to the carpet, because you are no longer meeting deadlines, when all you had to do was acknowledge your coworkers or whomever helped you or worked with you, that they made valuable contributions as well. And also acknowledge the fact that everyone brings value to the table. I had a person who I worked with a former employer, while I was with the former employer, and she had a Juris Doctorate degree, and she was unfortunately very, very full of herself, and thought that she was the only one who can come up with a good idea. And there were three of us, three colleagues, all with the same title, basically working together and on a project. And this particular person told me that an idea that I presented was dumb. And of course, I didn't accept that. I told her that she didn't have the right to tell me that my idea was dumb, and that everybody brings value to the table, and that I wasn't accepting her assessment, because she was not my manager, to tell me that my idea was dumb, which my manager never would have told me, that. But that is an example of not valuing everyone's contributions and thinking you know it all, and you usually end up falling on your face when you have that type of attitude about other people's ideas, and thinking that your ideas are superior. Next is the ability to stay calm during conflicts. It is so important not to lose your cool. I've seen so many people get so upset in the workplace. I actually had one with a former employer that the managers came to me and asked what could they do about one of their team members who would get upset and actually throw chairs and push tables and knock over stacks of paper and all of that. This was back in like 2011, I think it was. And the reason why he was doing that is because he was allowed to do that. When things didn't go his way, he would start throwing things around and yelling and pushing things over and what have you. And he even had his managers timid about interacting with him because he thought he was indispensable. He was an accountant. Um, excuse me, highly skilled accountant and highly knowledgeable accountant, and he thought that he just had the right to do as he pleased. And but he found out after the management came to me in employee relations, and I started guiding them on how to document his behavior, how to have conversations, and when to have conversations with him about his unacceptable behavior, and making it very clear that his behavior was unacceptable. And he may have ended up getting fired. I ended up leaving the organization for another opportunity, but they reported to me that he ended up calming down and controlling his emotions and reactions when things didn't go his way. Why? Because they took their authority back as his managers, and they started addressing his behavior appropriately, having clear communication with him that his behavior was that certain aspects of his behavior was unacceptable, and also that he was not indispensable, that if he continued to exhibit that unacceptable behavior, that he was going to continue to jeopardize his continued employment, and they would have to make the difficult decision to let him go. And so that's so important. I mean, we're not little 2-year-olds throwing temper tantrums. We are adults in the workplace who are supposed to be professional and are hired to act professionally. So make sure that you keep your calm during conflicts. And what I always tell employees is if the other person loses their calm, and I've seen this happen too, and I have recommended termination of employment for some people who have participated in workplace conflicts, and they kept their cool, but the other person didn't. And that other person ended up getting let go. I had one employee who, with a former employer, who someone made a derogatory statement about him to his face. He stayed calm, and that other person ended up cursing at this person, and making all types of inappropriate statements. There ended up being, I think, at least one or two witnesses, I think a customer as well as a colleague. Guess what? That other person was fired. And the person who the derogatory comments were made to, they still had their job. So guess what? It pays to keep your calm during conflicts, because you'll probably find that you still have your job while that other person who lost their cool just may not have theirs, or they will be written up, have some type of written warning or disciplinary action that is administered to them. And then guess what? That hurts their chances of moving up in the organization and enjoying career advancement. Another one, and we're almost to the end. This is number 10, and there are 11 of these. Number 10 is help out without expecting immediate payback. And what I was referring to earlier about your colleagues and other stakeholders who lend a helping hand when you're working on a project or something, there are going to be certain colleagues, they are natural helpers, and they're always willing to reach out and to provide a helping hand with whatever you are doing. And that is absolutely awesome. That is the reason why it's so important to acknowledge people's contributions and not make it look like you did everything on your own, because it's so invaluable, so invaluable. You just cannot put a price on having a colleague who is always willing to um, give a helping hand. And you need to be one of those colleagues who is willing to give a helping hand whenever someone needs it. And that's what I enjoy about my current manager, and my former manager. Both of them, they would are always so quick to give acknowledgement, to acknowledge the team and the work that team members do to help them get across the finish line on tasks and projects. And it makes you feel valued. And even if they can't pay you immediately, everything is not going to result in increased pay. But what it will result in is increased trust and a sense of commitment from you that others will see in you, and it could end up being a boost when it's time for you to be considered for a new opportunity within the company and moving up the career ladder. Then, oh my gosh, this is number 11, and I'm sorry, there are 13 of them in this article. The next one is keeping your online presence professional. I cannot stress this enough. I have a training, um, some training that is called Profile Code, and it just speaks to how you are to build your professional online presence, making sure that you are very discerning about what is posted online about you, both what you post about yourself as well as what you let others post about you. And don't think that just because it's on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or Facebook or some other platforms that it can't come back to bite you. There are many employers, I have done so myself, checked out potential employers' social media profiles, or social media activity, and it's becoming more and more norm now. I believe that employers are checking social media activity because it has been found that some people present themselves one way during their interview and the onboarding process, and while they are at work and that the core during the core business hours, and during the 9 to 5, as we like to affectionately say, but they are a completely different person when it comes to social media and their personal online presence. They may come across as a bully. They may threaten others. They may use derogatory language, participate in behavior during off hours that could bring some type of negative perception to the organization who has them as one of their representatives, and especially when they're in a high profile or a high visibility position like sales or public relations, or a high level management position like a department head or above. Listen, don't jeopardize your career. And also, if you are that type of person who is that unhappy with life and the circumstances around you, consider getting some help to help you deal with things in a more appropriate manner. Because if you have to engage in behavior that could jeopardize your professional standing and your career, there's something that you likely need some professional help with. And there's no shame in that. What we need to do more of is ask for help when we need it, instead of trying to handle things on our own and allow ourselves to spiral into behavior that could cost us everything. So I can't encourage you enough to keep your online presence professional, whether it be your personal or your intended professional platforms. And when I say professional, I mean not letting people see you drunk online, having a video showing you being drunk or engaging in violence or destruction or any type of behavior that would not be something that an employer will want their employee to engage in. So there you have it for that. Number 12 is adapt to office culture. And I've seen this sometimes where people, they feel very, very strongly about office culture and the culture of their workplace, and they try to change it and they don't adapt to it. That's not going to work out well for you. What I would encourage you to do instead is on the front end. That's why to conduct research. That's why I coach my clients to always do their due diligence. Research the organization, find out how active they are in the community, reach out to other people who work for the organization, and find out from them what is important to the company, what the company supports, what they don't support, and just do your due diligence to find out if the culture is a good fit for you, because it may just be that it's not. And that's why you need to do your research to find that out on the front end. That's why I turned down the other job that I had already verbally accepted at the time that I received the offer for my first offer from my current organization, because I got such a positive feeling and vibe about the culture of my current employer organization that I began to question. I had already seen some red flags about the other one, and I just wasn't willing to compromise that. I was already coming from a toxic work environment, and this time I made the decision, my choice about my next career opportunity. I let what my family's needs were, what my needs were, and just my core values determine which organization I was going to work for. And I'm going on, in this coming February will be 8 years that I made that awesome decision. And when I tell you, I have not looked back or regretted not once having rescinded my verbal acceptance of that position with the other organization, because the HR director, of all people, who I would have been reporting to, showed her true colors when I called, and in a very professional manner rescinded my my resignation. But it just showed me that my intuition was right. So just do your due diligence and make sure that when you see those red flags, you really assess whether it will be something that you could see yourself dealing with in the long term, on the long term. Then, let's see. Actually, that was I think was the other, the last one, the very last culture matter that could make or break a job is for you to read more. Always stay informed, participate or observe. Like we have our organization, my current employer has board meetings every month. If you can't attend the board meeting in person, make sure that you log in and view it if there's a webcast where you can do that, so you can stay up to date about what's going on within your organization. And by reading more and doing a search on your organization, you can find out how in the news, how certain things that are going on in the news are potentially going to impact your current employer, and it just keeps you in the know. So I encourage you to definitely read, read, read. So there you have it. 13 things or habits or workplace expectations that can make or break your job success. I hope that you found value from this content. And if you have, do me some favors. Smash the like button, let the algorithms know that others need to receive this content. Also, share it with your network of people. I'm sure that you know people personally who will find this content interesting and useful. And just remember that I'm on a mission to help you live your very best career life. So make sure that you help me to reach other people by sharing and also subscribing to my channel if you haven't. I would love to have you to be a member of the HR by Namtique 167 fold. Also, remember that I do Friday morning lives every Friday morning at 7 a.m. where we review an article that that addresses a certain workplace or HR topic. Then if you would like to work more closely with me, I'll drop all of that information down in the description below as well, or after the article if you're reading the article. And I would like to invite you to my free training that's coming up this Monday, January 20th, 2025 at 2 p.m. It's called AI and Your Job Search Advantage. And I would love for you to join me. Seats are limited, so you will have to pre-register, and I will have that and the top of the description so that you can easily access it as well. And I hope that you will decide to join me for this awesome session that is going to help you use AI or artificial intelligence to help you to win your next new career opportunity. Until next time, looking forward to seeing you for a new video and or next Friday for my next Friday morning live, but especially for my free training on Monday the 20th at 2 p.m. Have a great weekend, and as always, career success to you.